let's get comfy. Okay guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we are doing kind of a different video. So in 2022, I was very obsessed with reading. This year I read 75 books, and out of those 75 books, I have 8 books here with me today that I kind of wanted to talk to you guys about because I love them a lot. This is really heavy, I'm not gonna lie. I loved every single one of those books for all different reasons, and I'm here to talk about them today, and hopefully after this you will maybe want to read a few of them. I don't know. But anyways, let's get started. So this book is Culty by Mariana Zapata, and it is a soccer romance slow burn book following 2 soccer players. One is a 27-year-old female. What's her name again? I think her name's like Sal. Could be pronouncing that wrong. And then she is being coached by her like childhood icon soccer player. And yeah, it's just a slow burn romance between the 2 of them. I really like this book. Specifically, I loved the main character. I thought she was such a baddie and she was just so cool. So the other one I have by Mariana Zapata is From Lukov with Love. This is a figure skating slow burn romance following 2 figure skaters, Jasmine and Yvonne. I read it as Yvonne. I don't know if that's actually his name, but anyways. This book actually took me a little while to get into. I had to read about 100 or so pages just to kind of get into it, but once I was into it, I was hooked. I loved this book so much. It is just following 2 partner figure skaters and just kind of their training process and how they built their relationship from literally enemies. They hated each other to become best friends who trusted each other so much. I mean, you kind of have to when you're throwing your other partner around the ice, but this was a really good book. Another strong female lead. You're gonna tell by all the books I have here today that I love strong female characters. And this is another one. She was such a baddie. I loved it. Those are my 2 Mariana Zapata books. Hopefully I'll read more of her books in 2023. Another book that I read this year that I loved was Ignite Me from the Shatter Me series. This is actually number 3, book 3 in the series. First book is Shatter Me. And I specifically really like this book. I think this is the only book in the series that I gave 5 stars to, although I haven't finished it yet, so that could change. It is a dystopian fantasy novel. It's a YA, really easy to read series, and it pretty much just follows the main character, Juliet, and she has this power where she can touch people and kill them kind of thing, which is depressing. Yeah, it follows her, and I think specifically in this book, the reason why I really liked it was there's so much character development and growth, not just between the main character, but also some of the side characters. You got to know them a lot more, and I really like this one. I think this is probably everyone's favorite in the series, but I really recommend this book though. It was so good. Let's switch over to Colleen Hoover. Now, this year I read a ton of Colleen Hoover books, and this year specifically I enjoyed Verity. This is probably one of my favorite books of hers of all time that I've read so far, at least. I'm not gonna tell you too much of the plot because I went into this book completely blind, and honestly that was the best thing I could have done for myself because it was crazy. Like, I was on the edge of my seat the entire time I read this book. It was insane. So yeah, this is a thriller standalone novel. I would recommend though searching up trigger warnings if you're sensitive to quite a few things. Actually, there's a lot of, you know, things to search up with this. Most of Colleen Hoover's books are adult books as well, especially this one. So yeah, just be very careful if you're gonna read it and do your research. I'm going to go into a fantasy book. So this book is Dance of Thieves by Mary E. Pearson. This book was so good. I read it when I was in quarantine actually. It's about like 500 pages. It's a little bit more than 500 pages. But it's a high fantasy novel. So this book followed 2 main characters named Kazi and Jace. Kazi was on the Queen's Guard. She was like a well-known thief. And Jace was, I think he was just like a leader of this town. He was quite powerful though, of a guy. And his family was very powerful, and pretty much Kazi is sent into his town for a mission, and then they meet each other, and it's quite an adventure, and it is definitely an enemies to lovers type of novel. It is YA, I believe. The next book here I have today is Love in Other Words by Christina Lauren. This book was amazing. I feel like it's a very popular romance book. It follows two main characters, Macy and Elliot, and their childhood best friends. You see a past and present timeline where they grew up together and they were best friends, they were inseparable. And then in the present, you notice that they haven't talked in a decade and they meet again for the first time in years, and it's very awkward and very feels kind of forced. And you're just kind of like, how did you guys go from best friends like that to not talking in a decade? And so it follows both timelines, and eventually it leads up and shows you what happened and why they're no longer close. And then it also in the present shows them repairing their relationship and growing as adults. It's a really good book, and I don't know, it was just really wholesome to me. I would maybe check up trigger warnings. I don't know if there are any per se, but I think in the plot twist as to what happened, it was a little bit sensitive to some readers, I would guess. So maybe search up trigger warnings just in case. And the last book I have here with me today is A Court of Mist and Fury by Sarah J. Maas. I also just read this book here on my Christmas break, and I loved it so much. It's actually the second book in the series A Court of Thorns and Roses. It is honestly such a good series. Once again, this series follows a really strong female lead, but this series follows Farah, a human in the Mortal Lands who went out hunting one day and killed a wolf. However, the wolf turned out to be actually a fairy, or fae. So then Farah is taken from the Mortal Land up into the magical land. I'm pretty sure it was the Spring Court. And pretty much she's just taken to do her time and as revenge for killing one of their fae. So it's a really interesting novel. This book was really good. It definitely hooked you in, but this one in particular I really enjoyed. Once again, you just saw a lot of character development, and I think in this book specifically you saw the main character really grow into the person she is, and it was just so well written and well done. I just really recommend it to anyone who likes fantasy. This is a really good one. It is an adult fantasy though, I will just point that out. Pretty sure this one was marketed as a YA, but all the rest of the books in the series are adult, so just know that before you go into it. And just like that, those are all the books I read in 2022 that were some of my favorites. I also read a lot of books on my Kindle this year that I would also recommend, but there's just going through my Kindle library is really overwhelming. So alright, I'll see you guys all in my next one. Thanks for watching. Bye!